us a backdrop on there. Remember, anything that's of God came from there. Does that make sense? And for your memory's sake, this void, Brother Phil put up here, but this void that comes in between, and I remember last week when I told you about the rich man and the story of Lazarus, and it was really the rich man, but he said there was a great gulf that I can't cross, or Abraham had said that to the rich man in hell. So this division shows us the clarity and preciseness that nothing here can exist there. Make sense? Yet we all were born citizens here. And as a result, we have the flesh, the things of here. The flesh, the self, awareness of what's known as the beast in Revelation, the me, the I. We grew up with these. We're nurturing this. I'm going to do something. I'm this, and all those aspects. By the way, from that, if there's an I there, what comes with it? If there's an I, what comes with it? Just shorten it. Can anybody tell us right off? Okay, pride. Yes, the pride of I. That's the one of the thing. Abomination. It is the pride of I. I am. You're nothing. That's a title only reserved for God. He is I am. Anyway, past the I, though, what always comes with it is what's called works of the I, the beast or the flesh. Those are all synonymous terms. The works of the beast, the I, the flesh. When you envy, why do you envy somebody? It's okay. Yeah, okay. Yes, okay. Yeah, you even hit a lot of others. You hit coveting, probably hit stealing, Yeah. Debbie's coming after your stuff. Honestly, envy, jealousy, bitterness. Bitterness is when, there's the realization that you ain't what you thought you was. The bitterness is when things don't go your way. And by the way, did you ever figure out yet there is nothing in this world goes your way?
Yeah.
You're not telling me when you're 40 years old that everything went your way. You look in the mirror real quick and you go, man, it didn't go my way, man. It went somebody else's, man. It doesn't go. Okay? Adultery, idolatry. And those two, there's a reason they're used together many times. Idolatry, adultery, is because you are in love with somebody else other than God. And thereby, that's your God, and so thereby you are committing idolatry, worshiping other gods. Does that make sense? That is probably the far greatest natural crime of the me that we've done all of our lives, and usually we don't even think that's a crime. We just think that's a way of life. And it's probably justified in many other ways. Anyway, that you don't get anything good, and all these ends up in death, separation. It's already separated, and so all those things are going to hell. Something too, I'm hoping that we have in our minds that helps a whole lot to live in Jesus is the things that you value so much here is all polluted with the things of here. And thereby, in the end, according to Peter, it'll all be melted, and I kind of like that term. It means it's dissolved into some kind of mold, and it's going to be poured into the abyss of hell. Everything that has an offense in it whatsoever. By the way, all your thoughts of here and all the things, your desires of here, everything else is going to stay here. And that's something. And all that is connected with even the flesh, the body. And you see the body, guess what? Where's it at? It's here too. And if we are alive and remaining with the Lord Jesus, bless the eastern sky open, and guys, it'll be a wonderful event. I mean, I'm convinced of this. And there's something that I'm hoping that I get to share with you as we get closer and closer. on down the road on the evangelism. But one aspect that we really got to change and live is living to be there. Living to be there. I mean, looking forward to it, being excited about it, with a full reality of where we're at. We're right here. But all that's there is in with us. All that's there, we're not lacking anything that's there. It's there and it's right here. Okay? And if you remember what Jesus said, he says, you abide in me and I in you, or he's the true vine. Vine supplies all the nutrients and things, stuff that you live on. And he says that while you live here, while you're living here, this vine is abiding here that you can live in, and he lives in you. And guess what? You'll bear much fruit. And the fruits that you really bear, the fruits that you bear, will end up being salvation, but it is the fruits that you bear is the fruits of there. Does that make sense? And one of the fruits of there, guess what's one of them that's there that we don't usually think about? Or maybe we think about it, but we forget it so quickly. One of the fruits of there is heaven. You know, guys, I mean, isn't that not? You know, won't you live in heaven right now? See, through faith, you can live there right now. You know, and again, I know our past a lot and kind of our misconceptions, and I know that I've been the one that's taught you a lot of those, and it's not that I've taught you anything that was incorrect or unbiblical. When I taught you about your depravity, I promise you that is absolutely right and true. When I talk about our unworthiness, I promise you that is absolutely true. Am I not telling you the truth?
Yes.
And again, I use all kinds of scripture. In the flesh, you're dwelling to do no good thing. You're rotten to the core. Ain't a good thing about you. All right? And yet God says you're precious. And God wanted to love you. Okay? And that's the sign that we're going to have to really get down and live. I think we're content with living the negative, but meant to live the reality of, man, he loves me. And that's a challenge. Clint?
Did he say somewhere, kingdom of heaven is in you?
Yes. Oh, yes, yes. Oh, yes. He said the kingdom of, and many times he says it's at hand, and I love that side. And then he turns to the disciples, well, the kingdom of heaven's right in you. And boy, he ties these concepts all together. He said, you know, because they're sitting there and say, hey, Jesus, by the way, before you pack up and leave us, because Jesus had already told them he was going to be going from them to heaven. He said, before you pack up and leave us, this is all paraphrased, I hope you know that. But he said, before you pack your bags and leave us, before you pack up and leave us, show us the Father. And Jesus, his feelings are hurt. And he goes, show you the Father? He says, you've seen him. And they go, huh? He says, well, you've seen him. You've seen him. He says, if you've seen me, you've seen him. How you doing? Now, guys, that's what he says to us every day. You've seen the Father if you've seen Jesus. Can you see that? And you've seen the Father, you've seen Jesus. Does that make sense? And he says, but that it's he that's, that's in me. It's in him that you've seen. It's not my words that I've even spoken to you. But there's a big thing, that is so big, and there's so much to that I know I don't understand. And I mean, I've really tried to study it, and I'm still at it. Let me tell you. But there's so much to this that where Jesus is just saying, listen, if you've seen him, you've seen me. You've seen me, you've seen him. And then guess what? He is in you. And although I am in you, the Father's in you. And so, now let me ask you this. Everybody tell me. There's something better bad in it coming. What does Leslie look like to you? Let me pick on her quite so too. Gabby back here, she's behind back. What does she look like? Okay, got a couple of Preciouses up here. Do you guys know these guys are thinking you was looking precious? Huh? What if we're all thinking that one another was just precious? Now wait just a minute. Now, first, though, before we say what we ought to be thinking, let's be honest and find out what we have been thinking. Does anyone want to confess? Okay, all right, Rosemary. Okay, Rosemary, you did a good job avoiding the answer. Actually avoiding the question more or less. But what do you know, honestly, that's one of the things that we're going to really be wearing. What do you see when you see each other? And see, what I'm getting at is that guys, are we going to live this by faith? Or are we going to keep living it by what we think, what we see? And again, it's what is that if it's a we? Where are we living at? Here. Well, that's good. Here. And then again, what's here? You know, one of the things that's missing out of here that we haven't, we've got incomplete, well, that's good. But, guys, we're missing the tree of knowledge. Because right here is this is where it all started. That's what caused this. Everything else is the tree of knowledge. And remember what God said about that tree of knowledge. So you think, well, this is a good thing because it's really God's tree. And I guess that's a good way of looking at it. But what the real truth of it is, it's the only tree. God's the only one that can eat of that. Do you understand? Because He's the only one that really knows what is good and what is evil. He's the only one that can administer both of those at the same time. And He really does. Did you know that? He says, I'm the Lord thy God, and it's already testified over and over that nothing is good but God, isn't it? Right? But yet, God turns around and says, and I create evil. Well, I'm your God, and I do all these things. And what the point is that God's the only one, and notice His evil's pretty sweet, isn't it? I mean, it's not like man's evil. But man's evil is always evil. And that's what God said, don't you dare eat of that tree of knowledge or you'll be separated from me. Does everybody get that? And so where does this leave us? Living under the tree of knowledge. Maybe we need that up there, but we got put a tree there on the other side of the tree. Just a tree, yeah. And put on one side good and on the other side evil. Okay? What does that mean then? Number one, you're not where God is. So you're separated, you're dead, you're under the tree. Hey, throw some apples up there, brother. We don't dribble a few on the ground. Or show somebody skinny up there to give them or something. There you go. There you go. That's good. Okay. He loaded down the evil side. You notice that? Plenty of that to go around, right? Yeah, you can just about forget the good side because there's none of that here. Because once this took place, once man ate of it, it's everything here is evil. Everything brings a harm, a pain. Everything, when you see it even in nature, the rose has the stem, the sticker. A man now labors by the sweat of the brow. One day he tended, now he toils. Women now have pain in childbirth. I mean, the effects is just massive of everything that is related to anything here. Now, where does this leave the man, though? He's separated from God, and he's living in what? What's he think? I mean, where's he at? He's living on good and evil. That's what he's eating of. That's his food. He's living on good and evil. Now, there's all kinds of people, guys, going to hell in a handbasket because they don't even know that that's what they live every day. They're living good and evil. They're deciding it. They're deciding it for themselves. They're deciding it on everybody else. And to them, doing this, it makes them, this is what Satan said, you'll be like God. See, they're all thinking that they're doing what they're supposed to. This is their natural role. You see, we're deciding what's good and evil, and that's evil, so I'm going to do this good thing, but even that good thing will always turn out to be evil. Right? Okay. So what does it leave man? As you rack them up, I mean, everything that you've lived, that's where it leaves you. Okay? You may never think highly of yourself, but in all honesty, in your heart of hearts, you've thought of yourself as a god. You've tried to rule, at least within yourself, the kingdom of you, as if you were God of you. Right? And then if anybody treaded on your kingdom of you, yeah, God helped them, they were going to pay, or there's anger stirred at the least. And then anger is a funny thing. Everything starts in a rotation. First, there's some kind of a prick or something brought of an offense. When that offense has taken place and taken root, then immediately it goes to anger. And then from anger, it goes to hate, hetos. And from hate, it goes to wrath. And you know what wrath is? Okay, it's almost out of it. It's beyond your own dimensions of an anger. It's like throwing gasoline on the fire. Just, whoosh, it's wrath. And then anytime wrath is kicked in, it demands, it's got to have vengeance. Something's going to pay. Whatever's caused this and that, it's going to pay. Now, how many of you think you don't live that? Have not lived that? You know, it's funny, I mentioned the Facebook thing. How many of them seen something or it felt like somebody had done something to them? That'll fix them. You know, I hate to see what all's written about me on there. Probably catalogs is big on there. That's why God spared me. It keeps me away from that thing. Have I seen what you all thought of me on Facebook? I'd probably cry. No. So, you know, the point is there, again, guys, so that we've all lived this good and evil, and where this takes you to then is that you're a judge. And what does the scripture say over and over? And Jesus makes this so clear. And it's always in the key points of these teachings of separating what you might call what is spirit and what is flesh. Clint?
Judge not, you least to be.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, least to be judged, in the other passage says, judged of the same thing. Right. That whatever your judgment is, and guys, I guarantee it's true, whether you really realize it or not, within an hour, you'll run those categories. And honestly, you carry it out towards someone else, you know, in thought. I'm talking about just in your mind. You've already ran the gamut. You've passed the judgments. You've already lived out all the different aspects because the judgment is a result of your vengeance. That falls back to your wrath, to your anger. All those things are always linked here, and you've committed every one of them. And it can be that fast, just that fast, boom, 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 boom. Yes. And then judging. Guys, do you realize, don't we judge everything? Isn't that true? I look at my truck and I say, God, I'm not going to judge it. Just keep that old thing going. and Lord, let it be fast. Keep it rolling. Clint?
That's one guy showed me. Point at something.
Yeah.
And you got 3 point bracket.
Yeah. That's so true. But guys, and by the way, you know, notice who, and on every one of these things, who are you trying to be? God. And you're claiming the only things that He is. You know, He's the only righteous judge. You know, He's the only one that's ever right. He's the only one that has a kingdom. He's the only one that has the right to be angry. You know, and then just, you know, you can walk that out forwards, backwards, and sideways. You get into all the things of here. By the way, what springs from all these? All the evil, the good, the evil concepts. What springs from them? If it's evil, what's going to always come from it? Okay, absolutely. There's harm, pain, suffering, or at the least discomfort. And it's funny, have you ever noticed the pickiness that the Lord picks on? For instance, you know what? A person screaming bloody murder at somebody else, so forth, etc., is so much lighter to the Lord as if it's almost meaningless. Here you are railing, cussing, or whatever else on somebody, and yet the Lord takes it so serious of a whisper. He cannot stand a whisper. Murmur, a little complaint. Complaining. Isn't that something? You're better off flopping on the floor saying, "I don't die," and just, honestly, raise hell with him. You're better off than a murmur of something not going your way. And guys, we forget little things like, he's the one that guides our footsteps. And 9 times out of 10, we've been through something or whatever else. Maybe we regret it, maybe we don't, or whatever. But, we got to realize that there's purpose and point behind everything that God's taken us through. And behind it all, it's all because He loves you, and it all works for your redemption, for your redeeming. And a while ago, I started to say there's going to be an hour that eastern sky is going to fly wide open, and there's going to be the Lord. And by the way, guys, it's going to be so exciting. I can't even get past that part. No, the trumpets, man. But, and He says, and every ear will hear, and every eye is going to see that it's the Lord. And I love that because, and I love the dynamics that it says the eastern sky rolls back. That means it was there all the time. That means the Lord was right here all the time. It's just, in dynamics, we could never see it. But it was there all the time. And then what you thought was real on space and up there and down there and all that, all that is opened up and rolled back so you can see what it really is. And what you're going to see is Jesus. That's the first thing. And for us, and guys, this is really neat. Because right now, how many of you heard physically? Has physical pains and so forth really bad. How much, maybe some middle language too, and throw in a few things there. Really, I'm ignoring you, but he's always got a cramp going. Okay. But guys, when that eastern sky busts loose, it says that we are immediately, and I mean, it's in the moment of a twinkling of an eye, transformed. Do you know what just happened? You died. You were killed.
Yeah.
Did you know that? When the moment of His appearing, your soul will spring from that body. That body don't move upward. It doesn't move anywhere, but it moves, and the soul immediately moves to Him. And it all happens in the moment of a twinkling of an eye. And in that very process, you receive a glorified body. And again, John says, I don't know what a glorified body even looks like, but it'll look like His.
Yes.
It'll look like Him, and it's okay. So John found a great consolence in the idea that it'll all look like Him. Now think of all the things that we thought mattered, and think of all the things about our bodies. I'm going through several health issues, and it's kind of neat to really realize that, hey, listen, that one day, that ain't going to be there no more.
Amen.
And I won't be a part of it. I'm delivered from it. Now notice, none of this, though, goes there. And you see, and something else that's very important should be for all of us, should be overall, but in particular, you all have loved ones that believed in the Lord that's on the other side.
Yes.
Guys, on that day, it's a shout of victory. Well, they're going, yeah! And you got the angels up there, it's everywhere. Sound of glorious singing of angels in that moment. It's the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, and every eye will see Him, and every tongue, every knee will bow, and every tongue will confess. I'm really thinking in that, the illustration that is given, that's all those that's left behind. I really do. Those that's tried to live another reality. And they did, and they did, and they did. And in a sense, they seem to think they got away with it. But you know what? This is what I've become convinced of. I don't care who it is tries to tell you that they don't believe in God. They're full of it. Everybody knows God, and they know His Spirit is evident. It's real, and He's made Himself real, and He's wrote Himself even in the consciousness, that's old fleshly consciousness. We are aware of the presence of God. We know He exists. We ignore it. We try to pretend it's not. We contribute to many wonderful things of Him, blessings that He gives us, like a glad heart, and we'll contribute it to a wine jug or something else when it was the Lord all the time. Do you see? So guys, I'm hoping this is kind of good, but lift up your eyes, guys. We're going to heaven, and God has a job for us to get done. But the thing that we've got to do is leave the things here, and be living on the things there. The things there. By the way, I need to get this list to go ahead and made up. I will try to pursue that. And then as we do so, I do want to just continually demonstrate these things are here, they stay here. And by the way, when we're lifted up somewhere in all this, every eye will see Him, every tongue confesses that, boy, He was the Christ, and their judgment is sealed. I mean, it's all, do you understand? When you haven't come to Christ, your judgment's already been sealed. It's been that way since the foundations of the world. And it's only those that come to Him. And I mean, when you come and you cling to Him, well, there's nothing better. By the way, I don't think anybody is not looking forward to His coming. I don't think they know Him. You understand what I mean? Yeah, are we starting to see a difference in the wording? No. There's an intellectual know of Him, and then there's this intimacy of knowing of Him. The one we're starting to kind of realize is the one that's really loving us when we ain't been lovable. And that's something. The one that considers you precious and didn't ask you if He could do it, and didn't look for you for any reason to.
Amen.
Does that make sense? And again, those things, guys, that God's given us on Sunday, boy, just keep praying. Pray for more. Pray that it keeps you, boy, just give it. But boy, guys, also, I think Sunday, we need to, this last Sunday, we heard the danger, or at least some awareness of a danger of neglecting so great a salvation. If you think about how great it is, He did it all. And if somebody did everything it takes for you to go to heaven, and He did it all, and it's done for you, and He sets it right here in front of you, and yet you won't cut, you neglect it. You ignore it. You won't use it. And you see, you need righteousness. You don't have it, but He brought you a bushel full. Or if you need to look at it, a world full. Whatever your size is, He brought that and more. He's got everybody covered. Does that make sense? You need payment, cleansing. Think that. What do you mean by I've washed you? And again, guys, do you get the moment of discouragement I feel sometimes? That I'm sure you felt. When is Jesus walking with His disciples, though, all of a sudden pause, kind of almost in mid-step, turns and says, I have loved you. There's a reason why He says that at that point in time. Yeah. There was a reason going on right then that goes on with us all. Right? And then He goes on and says, I have washed you. There's a reason that He said that. Right? Evidently, we have a hard time believing He loves us, right? When that's all He's done is love us. You have a hard time believing that He's who's washed you. And you're washed.
Like these clouds and doubt roll over you, and that's what you get to live. And if you don't watch out, you'll stay there.
Yeah, well, I think a cloud of doubt, we grab this bar of soap and start trying to wash ourselves or something, right? And see why you're busy mucking around on yourself, because that's all that does. It doesn't make anything clean. It makes it nasty and heavy. There's just soap and dirt. You ever notice how nasty that is? It really is. Guys, I love you tonight, man. We're down to the wire. Is there any questions that you would have? Anything that could make it better for you to talk to someone about the Lord? Anything could be said. Anything that I could bring to you. Anything you need help with. Anything you'd like to ask. Right now, we're still working on changing our perceptions. Does that make sense? And I think that's been a big work, don't you? I got Will saying, oh boy, Pat, don't you think it's been our perception? You know, how many of you come in here really living like God thought you was precious? Do you see what I'm saying? Then, maybe, when we get this down a little bit though, you can go to work Monday Tuesday now, Tuesday, and you can live like you're really precious. And then you'll start seeing that, what made you precious was just Him. And, if they had Him, they'd be precious too. Can you see? And I really believe this. I think anytime there's a precious, there's always a precious too to follow.
I know, the
Okay.
brought me back to the body. Brought me back to the body.
Yes, that's true. You bet. And, well, Pat, we're glad you're back, huh? And I mean that. And I'm glad this Pat's back.
Amen.
There was another Pat that kind of got lost somewhere. I don't know where it's at. I don't know if I this one has got a realization of God, and as a result of that, the preciousness that God thinks she is. And now, again, I asked you a while ago, I forgot who I picked on, Gabby, and I asked you to do this. But guys, what do you think of Gabby? Just keep paying. What do you think of Gabby for a minute? Somebody tell me what you think.
Precious.
Good. Okay, Clint said precious. You bet you're hogging the term, aren't you? So I'm fast. I'll get there first. Okay, Clint.
Something that I do that every year, but I just love them. But I didn't give them this precious.
Okay, you bet. And now come back and think of the terminology, guys, because I really believe this Sunday I'm going to have to spend again a major part of the message on terms again. Because you see, if faithfulness is not there, preciousness will never be there. And if precious is not there, faithfulness won't be there. And what will always be there is neglect. Does that make sense? And I haven't even got into the phases and different phases and types of neglect. Because that runs in the forms of unbelief like you can't imagine. Hebrews by itself, that one book, warns us of 6 different types. They're entitled types of honestly, unbelief, I call it, or where we fail to literally believe Him, really live Him. So I guess it's still unbelief. Yes,
She's a precious jewel that sits on my crown. They get to Jesus' sweet.
Yes, that's very true. You bet. Yeah, and well, that's so symbolized in the saving of souls. Let me. Okay, Katie.
I look at some and Gabby's one that are valuable to the life.
Absolutely.
But I never thought of people as precious. I knew years ago there were people that were valuable to the life.
And I didn't catch this until I was just again the Holy Spirit, and I read it probably no telling how many times, but how many times Peter uses the word Peter of all people. When you think about Peter, there and Peter, and he uses this word over and over and over: precious, 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 for the preciousness of the blood, preciousness of the Lord. And then when he's talking about the unbelievers and so forth who denies His precious blood, they denied what was precious, His precious life that was lived for them. All of a sudden you really realize, hey, that old boy will become the disciple of the disciples, because he really taught it that everything, when God got to, was precious. Pretty sweet, huh? Because it's what you are, precious. Now, when our minds are changed, you'll see how precious other souls are. I want to raise this up. You're all familiar, because I've used this over and over, the illustration that Jesus gives of the lost sheep. You know, and it's a sheep, you know, I guess it's lost, but it's always going away. So anyway, and then in it is the shepherd, and then the overall teaching is each one of us, as we are the royal priests, we are in pursuit of the lost sheep. And way we're to go out every morning, there's always looking for God's lost sheep. And when they take off running, that's kind of a good thing, because you've identified where they was hiding at. Does that make sense? But then you pursue, and you'll pursue down the hill. So they'll take you down a hill or two. So when you feel the decline, you just keep on going, right? And then all of a sudden they'll take you up a hill or two. Then all of a sudden you'll feel things sticking in you. Ow, ow. And he's just taking you through a briar patch, you know. And somehow, him being woolly and everything else, he'll go right on through it while you're all stuck and scratched and clogged, right? Now, why in the earth, how could you pursue that sheep? What? No, wait, but how could you? I mean, honestly, be honest, you know, what could really move you down a hill after somebody else? Somebody at work, somebody that you know. What would move you up a hill? And unrelenting. What would put you through, you go through the pains of thorns and all kinds of barbs and sticks to pursue that lost sheep just to get your hands on it? What would drive you? What would motivate you? What would, Jim?
Oh, God has seen me as precious. And just with the honor that it is in that, be able to, you know, that the Lord seems precious, to be able to bring that to somebody else. And, you know, from the love of him, see it be precious.
Okay, absolutely. But, you know, and Jim, and what that is so true, and it goes back, you know, if you don't see yourself precious, to him, you haven't seen anybody else precious.
Right.
There's a real side to that. Because in all honesty, who's the ugliest person you really know? Yeah, that's right. The ugliest person that you really know is you, because you know everything about you. And then there's a ton that you don't even know about you, that you're scared to find out about you. You may have got to the point of wisdom that you don't even want to know anymore about you. You just start wanting to know him. And the sweet thing is, you know, whatever you are, he still considers you precious. And no matter what you've done, doing, or haven't done, he's yet loving you. His love's not based on what you're doing or not doing, but upon an unmerited, undeserved love. See, when you love like that, guys, see, you can pursue. You know, and then what Jim said, but, you know, honestly, if God thought of you so precious, I can't help it, but I can't believe you've got to think of him being precious. And I'm talking about God. Now, if you really think he's precious, and for some reason, he obviously thinks that lost sheep's precious. And, you know, he didn't say that we'll catch them all or find them all. Do you know that? But he didn't say, it doesn't change what he's thought about. In this hour, he thinks they're very, very precious. And they're worthy of our pursuit. Does that make sense? And then, guys, there's you know, as you know the story, then there's finally a catching up with, a latching on. And guys, this in evangelism, we haven't begun. Where we are so independent, thankfully everybody's free of each other. We've never really latched on to someone. They're really latched on to really be determined to take them where we're at. Does that make sense? We got to be determined to take him where we're at. In that case, they lifted him, the sheep up, and placed him even on his own shoulders. And there's great wisdom in that, because you took him of his own self-power of running away. Because honestly, in his nature, all he knows to do is run away. And it's kind of neat, when he gets back to the sheepfold, guess whose voice he learns? The shepherd's voice, right? Which will be Jesus in the truest sense. So we get them back, we get them here, and then they'll start hearing the words of Jesus. Guess what, man? You know, all of a sudden, They'll know their shepherd's voice, and then they will follow. They will follow. I love you all. Let's go home, okay? How many, mind me on this. Pray for one another all day long. And pray for what God uses to save others. Pray for Thursday night, okay, Samuel?
Monday.
Yes. Oh, yes, no Monday night, next Monday night. I'm sorry, 1 week. Yeah, Labor Day and Memorial Day, the 2 days I do not tread upon, even for Monday night. I'll do it on Christmas Day. Go ahead, Monday night. Okay, yes, and tomorrow, Tuesday's canceled. What about next week? Is it, yeah, I know, we got, Monday night's canceled, guys. Make sure the word gets on that one. Roger, what about Tuesday next week? It's on? Okay, it's on. Monique?
I just want to ask the body to pray for my little sister, Angie. She is actually going to be jumping on a plane tomorrow night, and going back to her home country, to Honduras. And she's doing it with every intention to get back here as quickly as she can, but she has to fix some legal stuff that she can return, and God willing, be, a citizen with us. And my father is started paperwork to adopt her, and as his own child. So I just ask the body to really pray for her. She's young. She does not know her country. She doesn't even, she's going with blood relatives that she does not even know. She's never known them. And it is a very hard time. But we're doing it in faith. And if you knew, just her family and everyone else, there's a lot of faith there, and I just pray, but we need the church,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to tell you, that situation's far wider in our own body right now, and I don't have permission to mention some names, but there's a few others needing desperate prayer for. That's very terrified, honestly, with the circumstances. Their confidence with God is great. But, man, have you ever been yanked up and put in a place that you've never been in? Try it sometimes.
With your name's Angela Charles, please hang out for a minute.
Oh, that's sweet.
And two, please pray for Lyola. She's a young lady that I see every day that I've been sharing with, and I can see the struggle in her, that desire to the Spirit pushing on her, pressing on her, but she is not here tonight here, but please pray, or by name.
Well, absolutely,
Please,
absolutely.
Lord.
Has she been here before? No, I don't. Yeah, boy, no, guys, that's really big. Well, that's great. Perseverance, man, that's the key. Well, the key to victory. Yes,
Anna Charles used to go to school here.
Yes.
And right now, she is in a mobility rehab center in Tucson. So I would just like to, for those who know her, to kind of hang out for a minute, and maybe we could just do a little recording or something. Just tell her hi, we love her.
Okay, and I wish you got everybody right here, because I don't know what kind of recording you're trying to do, but done right here.
We're still live.
Huh?
We're still live.
We're still live there, but, yeah.
Kristen,
She could though, right? If we all said something on the camera. Angelique? Guys, would you like to? By the way, Roger, you come on over here. I wanted to introduce Angelique, the new director of the school, and everything that she's really known. Boy, she's guys, she was a superstar in our school, and I just loved her so much. She was dramatic, wasn't she, Sammy, and drama and all that. You bet. You bet. Can we, what could be appropriate here? What can we do, guys?
Hello, Angelique.
Guys, if you would, step out now. Step out now. aisle, we'll just walk on out. Yeah. Angelique, we love you. You're bad.
Love you, Angelina.
Precious, precious. That's good. Anybody?